Ken Starr said that Sessions acquitted himself beautifully in his testimony. I watched the whole testimony, Andy. I'm thinking, this guy, I'm live tweeting, this guy is rocking it. And then I put on, CNN, and it's like, oh my God, he was obstructing justice. He's a liar. He's a good old Southern boy. And I'm like, what? Who are these people, and what were they watching?
Yeah, Sessions did a great job. He was appropriately indignant, passionate, and careful. But, this is the problem, Steve, with a congressional hearing compared to a trial. In a congressional hearing, there's no judge there to tell people who are abusing the process to knock it off. In a criminal trial, you know that there are certain privileges under law, like doctor-patient privilege and attorney-client privilege, privilege against self-incrimination, that are legitimate privileges recognized by the law, and therefore the lawyers in the proceeding are not allowed to ask questions that will provoke the witness inevitably to refuse to answer and then pretend that the witness is obstructing justice rather than exercising a recognized privilege in law. You wouldn't be able to do that in a real court, but this congressional hearing is more like a kangaroo court, so they get away with that kind of stuff. But the fact of the matter is, there is executive privilege. The president has a right to have communications with his top advisors, including cabinet officials like Sessions. And while it's all well and good to say that the president didn't exercise his privilege to prevent Sessions from testifying, that doesn't waive the privilege with respect to any individual question where it might attach. And no one is saying that, Trump should be able to exert executive or exercise executive privilege in the dark. The Democrats and whoever else ought to be able to ask, these are the questions we want answers to. And if the White House is going to exercise executive privilege, then, he ought to be made to do that so we know what questions he's saying he doesn't want answered, right. And then the public can do with that what it wants to. But Sessions has a right, and the president has a right to, if the Democrats aren't going to give them notice ahead of time of what they're going to ask, to say, I'm not going to answer that question now, and then we'll consider whether it ought to be answered or not after the president has a chance to decide whether he wants to exercise his privilege or not.
Right. So they could say, in other words, the next step should be, in your view, or maybe Sessions should have said, what you just said. Submit to me the questions you want answered. I'll take them to the president or submit them to the president. If he's comfortable with me answering them, I'll do it if he in closed session. Otherwise, he'll be claiming executive privilege. So that's how that should have been worked out, right?
Right. And instead, what they wanted to do was have a theater so they could say obstruction as many times as they could, since we're apparently off collusion now and on to obstruction. Obstruction is now, the fetish scandal of this month. Who knows what will be next?
Well, that very well said. Absolutely.